Well, welcome everybody. This is Kim Evans to Inspire Conversations podcast show. And I am so excited of this next guest. Ladies, you are in for a fabulous treat. For those of you who do not know me, I'm the proud owner of Two Gorgeous Integrated Health and Wellness now of 26 years. I'm a licensed esthetician, holistic wellness coach, and business coach. My spa actually is located in Lafayette, California. So today, our podcast topic is sexy, healthy hair, preventing hair loss from the inside out. And I have a very special guest, Julie Olson, functional nutritionist. Julie, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to meet you back at the National Association of Nutrition Professionals in April, and now we're doing a show finally.
Yes, I love it. We actually were at their yearly conference over in San Diego, and I met this beautiful lady here, and she was actually giving us a wonderful presentation about hair loss. And I have a quick little story to share about mine a little later. And I said, Julie, you got to be on my podcast show. So again, thank you so much for saying yes and sharing your gems with women who really need to hear what you're doing.
Oh, thanks.
So Julie, I'm just going to quickly just go right on in. I'm going to start by reading your bio. But before I do that, it's just traditional. I always love to just send a blessing to the viewers. And I hope that is okay with you.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yes. I like to always offer up my show. I like to offer and just invite the Holy One in. God, we just want to say thank you and have full reign over the show. This is going to be a lot of information given, and we just want to say thank you for your all power. And may everyone who listens to this show today, that the words will go as far as the east, as far as the west, as far as the south, as far as the north, and be educated, transpired, and lifted up and illuminated, because it's going to be some good gems. God, and thank you so much for blessing this talent here, this vessel that is doing some amazing work into the universe and the galaxy. And God, thank you for my voice, because without you, I'm nothing. So God, thank you. Miss Julie, I'm going to start with your bio. Julie Olson is a triple board certified evidence-based nutrition expert whose mission is to help women restore their health and hair loss naturally without relying on medication, so they feel and look their best. And we do know that every woman wants to look and feel their absolute best. Is that not correct? Yes, especially as we are aging. Yes. With more than 10 years of experience, along with her training in functional medicine, Julie has collaborated with functional and integrative practitioners, transformed thousands of women hair. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Not only.
Oh my gosh.
Health and hair. Yeah.
Health and hair. Yes, health and
giving them hope. Also giving them hope.
Man, she's giving us hope around the world. She is the founder of the Fortitude Functional Nutrition and the Women's Hair Loss Expert. Julie is known to skillfully investigate, discover, communicate root cause resolutions to regain health and naturally regrow hair. That's impressive. Julie, that's impressive right there. Julie has used these same strategies to personally overcome her own health struggles of hair loss, digestive issues, and autoimmunity. Julie has been featured on the Dr. Tom O'Brien and the Noel KDVR Fox 31 Evening News. My goodness. KWGN to Denver Early News and Business Talk Show, among outlets, and authored articles published in the Health Hotline and the National Foods Merchandiser. The Zoe Report features Julie in a frequent guest. Julie worked extensively for Warner Brothers. Wow. As a senior media research analyst and contributed to the team that syndicated Friends. Wow, Julie, impressive. Julie, take it away. Yeah. How did you get into this industry?
Well, it's when I was working at Warner Brothers. It was a call that was the catalyst. I was actually Yeah, really happy working there. And I got this call out of the blue that my mother had stage 3 breast cancer and she was going into emergency surgery the next day. So I'm really close to her. Within weeks, I moved back to Denver to support her through the ordeal of chemo and radiation, and worked in television, but got disenchanted and more interested in why she got so sick and realized I was a hot mess myself. And I quit and went back to school to become a nutritionist. And I've been doing it ever since and just absolutely love it.
Wow. So that's impressive. That's just impressive. So, wow. Where would you like to start? Because there's so many different facets to hair loss and how to actually, let's just start at the gut health. Let's start with the diet. Take away with that. Let's start with that. How does diet impact hair loss?
Well, it actually, hair loss, people don't realize, I mean, our hair follicles are like an organ. They require an enormous amount of energy and have a very, very fast metabolism. So if we're not getting the nutrients or we're not digesting the nutrients, we're not absorbing them, then, I mean, that's the basis of everything. That's a good place to start. And then it's also really important to figure out what type of hair loss you have, because different types of hair loss have different treatments. Well, I don't say I'm not a doctor, but different ways of solving them.
Yeah.
And there's I've put them into some main categories, and that's hormonal, inflammatory, digestive, and stress induced.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, there's always overlap. And there's so many causes of hair loss. I mean, not only what I just mentioned, but candida, fungal overgrowth, trauma, low protein intake, mold toxicity, viruses, the crash diets, bacterial infections, chronic insomnia, high fever, infections, undereating, autoimmunity, pathogens, parasites, dietary fatty acid imbalance, low intake of phytonutrients, medications. Medications always deplete us of something. Poor circulation. We're not getting the nutrients up to our scalp. Food sensitivities, allergies, intolerances. I mean, the list goes on and on. But if you look at it, it really starts in the gut, because our hormones are created in our gut. If we aren't absorbing our nutrients, then of course we're going to have inflammation and then let me mention the elephant in the room. People think, oh, well, the hair loss is genetic. Well, that's not necessarily the case, because if you look at epigenetics, and I have a gal in my practice that she just does that. She looks at your genes to see what's expressing or not. And our genes, they load that gun, but it's our lifestyle that pulls that trigger. And for instance, both my mother and sister had breast cancer, and I have the genes, but I'm just determined not to pull that trigger. So when people say, well, I'm going to have hair loss because yada, yada, my grandfather, which is a whole myth. They always say it's my grandfather. That is such a fallacy. And the study of epigenetics is really new and upcoming. And so there's a lot of things we can do. And what's so exciting is, as you saw my published abstract and poster at the event.
That was awesome. That was awesome, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, now they've discovered, so we have a microbiome in our gut, which is the biggest one. And it's got, hundreds of trillions of different bacteria. It outnumbers human cells 10 to 1. Actually outnumbers our genes 100 to 1. So we have more serotonin in our gut than in our brain. And people are it's become a whole new science. I mean, health, Hippocrates said way back when, health begins in the gut, and that
Yes.
is so true. But now, you know, we have a microbiome, not only in our gut, but our private parts, our skin, our oral, and now they're saying in our hair follicles. It's our scalp and hair follicles is another microbiome in and of itself, but we treat it the same way. And we address it the same way as we do, you know, any other autoimmune or gut imbalance or just health problems in general. You have to look at the root causes instead of putting a Band-Aid over it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned two key triggers here. So one is epigenetics, and the other one is the microbiome, the gut health relationship. So let's take those two triggers. Let's first look at epigenetics. Explain to our viewers and our listeners exactly what is that, because that actually is a new thrill kill. It's new information for many. So exactly when we say epigenetics, exactly define and kind of just quickly explain what that is.
It's the study of our genes, that while we cannot change our genes, we can change how they behave.
Yes.
And how they express.
We could change the gene expression, turn it on, turn it off.
Again, and going back to my analogy, those genes, they load that gun, but it's our lifestyle and our choices that pull that trigger.
Yes.
And going back to my example, I mean, I don't have any other siblings, and my sister had breast cancer, my mother, and so there's definitely science behind it. It's new within the last like 10 years, but it can actually influence our gene expression or not.
And here's the magic, that we can control that on and off. So we can switch that switch on or off. Right. And how do we do that? Share. How can we switch that flip on and off, the switch on or off? Because there are ways how we can do that.
By our lifestyle choices, first and foremost.
It is lifestyle choices.
What we consume, not only what we eat, but what we consume in our life. I mean, are we consuming bad relationships? Are we consuming, you know, are we in a house full of toxins? Are we in a job we don't like? Are we, because, you know, if we're constantly stressed out, then there's no way you can absorb your nutrients.
Exactly. And that is so important. This is what our women need to listen and hear, is that the switch here that we can control, although genetically is there. Now it can actually exasperate itself or not, or you can say, hey, I can push this back. And what I'm hearing you saying, I'm just reiterate some of the ways of how we can do that is change or choice of lifestyle.
Right.
It's the foods that we eat, meaning our diet. And that's where functional medicine comes in, nutritionists such as yourself and practitioners such as myself, energy, changing your flow of energy and dynamics, and also kind of reducing toxins that's in your home. And we all know a list of toxins, and that can go on and on and on. That is absolutely amazing. That is so effective. And so those are some triggers there and how that can impact hair loss. Now, the other one is gut health. So share with us the difference, the different types of how the gut balance actually affect hair loss. Can you go a little bit more in depth into that and how important it is balancing the gut biome?
Sure. So our gut biome, again, has trillions of bacteria, outnumbers human cells 10 to 1. So you need to keep your gut in balance. You need to have more good bacteria than bad bacteria. And you do that, again, not only with your what you consume, but what you can consume, eat, drink, but what you consume in your life. Because your gut's going to be a complete mess if things are out of balance in your life. Even if you were a C-section baby, you're way behind, or you're bottle fed. That's why I asked that on my intake. because you're behind the 8 ball at the beginning.
That makes a big difference.
Oh, a huge difference. Huge,
Really?
enormous difference. You don't get that vaginal secretion that's full of probiotics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's very important. And there's a known association between gut dysbiosis, which is an unbalanced gut, inflammation, leaky gut, and they also call intestinal permeability, malabsorption, IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, which is kind of a catch-all for an unhealthy gut, hormonal imbalances, and hair loss. There's a known association. And on my abstract, I have 4 case studies of people that did what's called what I call a gut reset. Yes. But before we get to that, I just want to say that there's some top inflammatory triggers of hair loss. Okay. And that includes if you're not detoxifying correctly, if you have poor circulation, and what I'm going to explain here, I can test you on all these, but food sensitivities, intolerances, even gluten, because gluten cross-reacts with the hair follicles.
That's why it's important to be on a gluten-free diet.
Yep. Candida, yeast, fungal overgrowth, heavy metals, toxin overload, chronic stress, pathogens, and parasites. So here I'm saying as a nutritionist, it's not just nutrition that we're talking about here. It's a whole lifestyle. It is. It's a whole lifestyle.
It's a whole lifestyle.
And also both you and I have personal stories about hair loss. Right. But let's go into that before I tell you about my 4 case studies.
Oh, I would love to hear about your 4 case studies. Okay. And before I share a little bit about my story of mine, and I had Julie really just laughing when I was telling her what I did with my hair loss.
I wasn't laughing at all. No, I wasn't laughing.
No, it was a good thing. It was a good thing. It's like, because it's like, well, I got it back, Julie. I got it back. And this is how I did it. But real quickly, I got to go back to the inflammatory markers, because that is so important. I think a lot of women don't understand triggers, especially lifestyle triggers. When we talk about the inflammatory markers, the gluten, how it is important to have a gluten-free diet. We talked about candida. But what are some of those other inflammatory triggers? You had mentioned them just a few minutes ago. I just wanted you to repeat them.
I mean, a top one really is vitamin or mineral deficiencies, but also surpluses. Like if you're getting too much of a nutrient, that can backfire as well. Like if your iron is too high, you're going to lose your hair. Same with some other nutrients, selenium and some other nutrients. You definitely need to be in balance. But hormonal, like hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, hyperparathyroidism, high DHT. And then, of course, alopecia. There's different types of alopecia, and that's an autoimmune type of hair loss. It's the autoimmune piece here is it attacks the hair follicle. And again, there's different types. The alopecia areata is the type that Will Smith, Jada Smith Pickett is dealing with. Yeah. There's also alopecia, traction alopecia, and a lot of Black American women suffer with that because of the pulling on their hair, the tight hairstyles and the braiding. It actually weakens the hair follicles and causes this.
Oh, you didn't open up a can of worms there. Let's go back. Well, this is good, because this is going to get into my story. A little bit of mine is there's different types of alopecia. So can you just quickly go back and just describe what are the different types of alopecia? Because I think a lot of people only think there's one type, but there's multiple different kinds.
There's multiple types. I'm going to
just in general.
I'm going to list the top types. So alopecia areata, alopecia universalis. That's where they lose hair over their entire body, their eyelashes, their eyebrows, hair, entire body. Alopecia totalis, they just lose hair on their head. There's androgenetic alopecia. That is really the hormones and high DHT. And also there's a crossover between that and female hair pattern.
Baldness. Yes. Yes.
But those, and then like traction alopecia, like I just mentioned, those are the main ones. There's some of the other ones that are not as common, but those are the main ones.
You know what I thought that's so interesting, Julie, that you mentioned actually the top four, you know, and of course the list goes on, and we're going to just deal with the top popular ones. And you talked about, you know, the issue was going on with Jada Pickett, and I think that's very, you know, as a conversation piece. But what I would like to also just mention, you mentioned something about the braiding when it comes to African-American hair. It's the pulling and the tension on the braid. Yeah. And I've noticed it's like, wow, a lot of women, we wear our braids, and if we wear those braids too tight, it causes the hairline to recede.
Yes.
And eventually it recedes more. Then it recedes more. Then it recedes more. And then all of a sudden, even hair weaves too, you take your braids out and it's like you have this haul in the front hair loss, totally hair loss. Is there any way to reverse that back once it begins showing itself?
Absolutely. Like we're talking about today. But the caveat is if it's scarred over, if your hair, so you need to, when you start losing hair, you need to address it as soon as possible.
Yes. Because
what happens is there's different types of hair. You need to figure out what type of hair loss you have. And on both my websites, I have a hair loss quiz.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of overlap, but to get on it and solve it to grow your hair back, you need to know what type it is. Okay. Because different types have different solutions.
So the first thing you want to do is determine what type of hair loss type you have. Okay.
Exactly. And then you want to test, not guess. So we'll determine that. And so we'll do functional medicine and nutrition. You test the gut, you test the, at least for hair loss, you need to test like a whole thyroid panel, a whole iron panel. You need to do like a Dutch test, which tests all your hormones, because elevated DHT is a part of androgenetic hair loss. And again, there's a lot of overlaps, but we first and foremost need to figure out what are some root causes instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it, because that's all that Rogaine does. That's all the laser does. That's all the PRC. They're just putting a Band-Aid on it, and it will come back once you stop doing those things, which have side effects, especially
Julie,
the Rogaine.
That's interesting that you mentioned
a lot of
Rogaine.
medications. Yeah,
that's really important. I'm glad you mentioned that. You mentioned Rogaine. Rogaine is only as good as you use it. As soon as you stop using the Rogaine, the problem comes back.
Yes, bingo. And it's in really small print.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's another reason I'm on such a mission to help women overcome their hair loss, is because before I got into this industry, I was losing my hair like crazy. And I literally was walking into a dermatologist's office to get on Rogaine because I didn't know what else to do.
Exactly.
So at least I want to give women hope and options that there's a way to reverse it naturally. I mean, it's not the case. I can't do it for everybody, depending if they're, you know, if they've got scarring, they're 10 years out. But that brings, go ahead.
But you mentioned something really key here.
Yeah.
You can reverse it as long as you catch it early enough.
Right. And so my abstract, you can share that. And it's also on my website. Mm-hmm. So my abstract, I have 4 case studies. And what they did, what I call is the gut reboot.
I love it. We're gonna get to that in just one second.
Yeah.
But this is really good. You have the pulse. You got your hand on this right here. So what you're saying is we want to leave the listeners that you can reverse it as long as you catch it early enough and know the type. Now,
and as long as you don't have scarring.
And as long as you don't have scarring.
Advanced alopecia is really tough as well. Advanced alopecia is not necessary. I can't say that for sure. I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say that, but I'm not going to say that I can.
No, we understand why we can't say it. But you know what I love? I love the fact that you have to have a discovery. And this is why the same thing with breast cancer. Women, we need to check our breasts on a regular basis.
Sure.
You need to do that. Just like your hair, put a mirror up, feel it, see it, flow it through it. And on that note, yes, when I had discovered that I actually had a similar, what you were describing, of a temporary hair loss.
Sure.
I woke up one morning and I said, wait a second, I had like this, and mine was in the front. It was a circle of a P. And then all of a sudden it started getting wider and wider and wider. And I went to my hairstylist.
Alopecia.
Yeah. And I went to my hairstylist. Let me tell you what happened, ladies. Let me tell you what happened. I went to my hairstylist of 20 some odd years and I'm like, what is going on in my hair? What is this? And she looked at it. And she took a mirror to see if there was no scarring, exactly like you said, because it can't be scarring. It wasn't scarring. She says, Kim, I am so sorry to tell you, you are suffering from alopecia. It's a male pattern of baldness. I says, absolutely not. I don't receive that information. So then I went to another hairdresser. One of my good friends is another hairdresser. I said, look, what's in my hair? I said, what is going on here? Kim, I am sad to tell you that you are suffering from alopecia. I says, no, I don't receive that. So I went to a third hairstylist, all different regions, and they all told me the same thing. I was so distraught. I was about to call my doctor. I said, this cannot be. And then it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like a quarter size. And I even sent Julie my photo of it. So let me tell you what I did. My holistic intuition told me, if I stimulate the hair follicle, that I can actually help induce the follicle to grow back.
And you know, Kim, now there's studies done on that, massaging it, stimulating it.
Yes.
I mean, that's part of the problem is you're not getting that blood flow with the nutrients up there.
I wasn't getting blood flow up here, why is that, Julie? Because the hairstyle that I was using was pulling my hair back. So real quickly, long story short, I actually looked up aromatherapy essential oils that I use to stimulate my hair follicles. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I created my own concoction with the base oils of 4 oils. And then I used about 5 aromatherapy essential oils. I shook it up and I actually put the serum in my head every night, in the afternoon and in the evening. And then I was sharing with Julie, I actually went and bought a hair massager. Not only with my fingers, a mechanical hair massager.
Yeah.
And then I massage it.
28 fingers.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's because
so good.
You said in the very beginning that if our hair loss is one of the triggers is that we're not getting enough nutrients, we're not getting enough oxygen to our scalp. And so intuitively, I also learned it's like, okay, I need to bring blood flow and circulation to my scalp. 30 days. Ladies and gentlemen and lady kings and queens, 30 days, that hair was growing back. By 45 days, my hair was back.
I love that. Back. I love you.
It was back.
With your attitude. Also, but I wanted the listeners to know, I mean, Kim also eats well, pays attention to her stress. I mean, she does everything else right.
Yes.
So that's definitely very, very valuable information here. But if you just do that alone and don't pay attention to your lifestyle and your diet and getting enough water and, getting some movement and
absolutely,
I mean, there's a lot of layers here. And that's why when I get women with hair loss and even myself, I mean, if you're losing your hair, there's more than one thing out of balance in your body.
Absolutely. It's kind of sort of, you have to have kind of like a whole lifestyle, holistic approach to this. I couldn't just do one thing, and you're absolutely right. I increased my exercise. I increased in my movement. I managed my stress. Stress is a thrill kill. And when I look back when it was starting to occur, I was at a stressful time. And so when I nipped it in the bud and I started managing my stress, and with the concoction that I was doing, the exercise I was doing, it came back. I mean, my hair actually came back. And on that note, so Julie, please share these 4 case studies. This is amazing. You wanted to share some case studies.
Yes. Okay. So one is a 20-year-old man. He had alopecia universalis, and he did what I'm calling the gut reset. Now, this is in the form of a fecal transplant. So they first did it on mice. They took a obese mouse, gave them the fecal transplant of a lean mouse, and the obese mouse became lean, and vice versa. And then they're hey, hold on just a second. I got someone.
I love it. This is such amazing information. Amazing information.
So then they started doing it in hospitals for diseases, especially like staph and diseases that are life-threatening. So they do a fecal transplant. And what it does is gives you a whole new gut. And so they noticed also these people that are bald started growing their hair when they're told they were never going to be able to grow their hair again. So that on my abstract, I have this 20-year-old. I have another, I believe he's 20-year-old. And then I have a woman who's 34 years old. She had colitis and hair loss, and it's especially right in the front. I have some pictures of it. And then it all came back. And then we had was a 38. Yeah, I don't have it right in front. The 38, no, another male, I believe he's 32, 38. The same thing. He had alopecia universalis. They said he'll never grow his hair back. And within 4 weeks, he started growing his hair back. And then my favorite one, the favorite case study, is with an 86-year-old man. And he had diarrhea. He had really bad depression and some other health issues. And after the gut reset, everything was resolved. 86 years old, and he had an alopecia bald spot in the back of his head.
I love it.
It wasn't universalis. It was a bald spot. But and I have some before and after pictures on.
So Julie, what I'm hearing you say that it's important of the gut reset. So take us through your 5R framework, because this is imperative. This actually is your baby. This is the program right here. Share with us the 5R framework program.
Sure. So remove. So that's where, after an extensive questionnaire that actually puts together each client's timeline and health matrix, because you didn't start losing your hair a week ago. It goes 10 years back. You start to see patterns, and so at this initial intake, I go over this questionnaire and their timeline, and it puts it into like a health matrix. Because, in conventional medicine, they put you in a bubble. See the cardiologist, see the dermatologist, but in functional medicine and nutrition, there's a lot of overlap. And you can see by the way you answered your questions, you can see all the overlap to different systems of your body. So I take a look at all this. I talk more to my client, and from there, I determine what labs they should have to dig deeper. And that's the first phase, is with those labs and with the questionnaire. I have to remove all the toxins in their system, whether it's food sensitivities, allergies, intolerances, parasites, candida, dysbiosis. It also includes if they've got a bunch of stress going on in their life, then we've got to remove that. You got to get them in balance. So that phase usually takes the longest, the remove, and then we replace. The 5 R's, again, remove, replace, reinoculate, repair, and rebalance. So replace, it can be with, depending on the person, but oftentimes it's digestive enzymes, whatever they're missing in their system, so that they can start feeling better and digesting, absorbing their nutrients. I find in a lot of these initial labs, they're not even absorbing their macronutrients, like their proteins, their fats, their carbohydrates. So how the heck can you grow hair?
Exactly. They're malabsorbed.
Or they have H. pylori. There's been a bunch of studies. H. pylori is a condition that makes it so can't absorb very well. You're low in stomach acid. But then we go to re-inoculate, and unless they have SIBO, we usually re-inoculate with some healthy prebiotics, probiotics, but it's not all supplements, it's foods. I lace in foods throughout here. We repair their gut, repair whatever needs repairing. Usually they have leaky gut, but it's important to go through these phases one at a time and in this order, or else you can waste a lot of time and money. Right. And then rebalance. And that also includes education, so that they are their own health advocates, and they don't need me and they don't need tests and so forth. So they understand how their body works, what foods are right for them. And throughout this entire process, what I have noticed through the years is women not only grow back their hair, but they lose the weight. Yes. Their skin clears up because everything's getting into balance.
Oh my God, your program is so comprehensive. It's so complete, the 5R framework. So you talked about the first step is to remove, and then you replace, and then you re-inoculate, and you repair. And then the last phase is rebalance. So from the first step to the last phase is approximately how long will it take someone to go through this mission? This beautiful journey of new.
It's about 9 to 12 months.
So they're with you they're with you for a year. And the testing, if someone is outside the state from you or a different location, can you still work with them if they're not face to face with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I work actually virtually with people all over the world.
And how do they get the labs completed and working with you if they're not meeting with you face to face?
Right. Well, I use LabCorp for the blood draws for some labs, and the other labs, you send them a kit and you figure out in their particular area, the best lab to go to for that. But I mean, some of them are done at home. The stool test is done at home and you send it in FedEx. But the SIBO test, the breath test for SIBO, they can do at home. There's a lot of tests you can do at home now.
Amazing. That's great. So the test, is that a cost that the patient covers on their own, or can they go through their insurance? How does that normally work?
So it's included in my package.
Okay.
But if their insurance will cover some of the labs, then I'll just subtract it out of the package, or else give them more labs.
Oh, wow. This is amazing.
More labs since they're getting some covered.
So the first step that someone needs to do to work with you, Julie, is to have a consultation with you? Okay.
Yes. So they go to either of my websites and sign up for a free consultation, and there's a short application they need to fill out. And then I will spend 30 minutes with them to see if I can help them, if it's a fit or not for either of us. And then we move forward, and then they go through 4 modules. They're about 10 minutes each. There's some videos, and it explains what is functional medicine and nutrition. And what is epigenetics? What is this genetic thing we were talking about earlier? What is that? And then it explains how to fill out this questionnaire. It pops them right into it. It's all online. And then I need to have the answers to this questionnaire. It's called the Functional Medicine Living Matrix. I need to have that at least 24 hours prior to their appointment to analyze it. And then that first initial intake is when I go over everything, dig deep, and decide what labs they should have or not to move forward.
Okay. All right. This has been, it's interesting how we actually continue to stress the importance of diet and nutrition and how that impacts hair. It can't impact hair loss. And no matter what, it's the biome, it's the gut biome. And that is actually the breath and the essential of your program, is really getting your gut in order and keeping it in great health. So as we begin to wrap up, Julie, share with us, when we look back 2 years ago, when this whole disarray was going on and the nation was kind of like what we call like on lockdown. And this thing came in, right, that just erupted the whole world and universe. And, and it's, we call it a pan. We start with the P. We just say that, or we N-word, we call the vid, but how, we gotta.
So, that's a different type of hair loss. Yeah.
How did that impact hair loss?
It's become a pandemic within itself. Yeah. The hair loss, anywhere from a month to 6 to 7, 8 months to a year after the pandemic. And it's a different type of hair loss. It's stress induced. They call it telogen effluvium, which is definitely easier to regrow than alopecia. Mm-hmm. And again, it's stress induced, but it all begins in the gut as well. And a lot of people, we know like diabetics had a harder time with this. Well, where does that begin? It begins in the gut. Had a harder time with this pandemic in and of itself, but it's the same process, and to get that hair back.
Yes.
And but it is a different type of hair loss than it's called telogen effluvium, but it's also linked to your gut being out of balance, your hormones being out of balance. It's all these other root causes that we talked about at the beginning of your podcast.
Well, what you said that's so interesting is that it is stress induced. And now that we're coming out of this and we're getting back to a new way of doing life, we're doing life differently, is that we have to keep in mind is that diet is everything. Diet and nutrition is everything. So Julie, leave us with 3 things how a woman now can begin to have healthier hair as it relates to hair growth, meaning that balanced stress. 3 things that women can start doing now to balance their stress.
Think PCF. Every time you eat, think PCF. P for protein, C for complex carbohydrates, and F for healthy fats. So that's one thing. Get some movement. Do like Kim did. Get
some stimulation. Yes.
Stand on your head. Stand on your hands. Get an inversion table. Get some movement.
Yes.
A third thing is it's tough to eat healthy nowadays, if you're eating organic, but even then our soils are so depleted. Yeah. Get on a good multivitamin, get on some fish oil, get on vitamin D is very important. And Kim, and I think for a free gift, I have the top 10 nutrients for beautiful hair, right?
Yes. So let's talk about that. What is your free gift, Julie? I'm going to leave that in the show notes. Julie's going to give you the top 10 list of
nutrients for healthy, beautiful hair.
Okay, that's.
Want me to go over those?
And then what I'm going to do is listed in a link. And so for the listeners who are listening, we'll have them do it. So if they're interested, then they need to put the effort in to go to your website to get that. And when you do that, you will also get a consultation with Julie. And I think that's amazing. But I want to just reiterate what you just said. You said PCF, protein, complex carbs, and good fats. And that was also what I did to help to grow my hair back. And mine was stress related, actually.
Yes.
And one of the things that I did ask, absolutely. And I tell women all the time, eat more protein. And I was lacking protein.
Our hair is mainly protein. Our hair fibers are mostly protein anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean vegetarian and vegans. We're talking
and
to
so
you
that's
too.
A good point, Kim. So let me specify why. Because there's The protein, it's the branch chain amino acids that you get in animal protein. You cannot get that from vegetarian sources. Again, it's the branch chain amino acids.
Yes.
You could supplement with that, but that's what you get naturally from animal proteins. And you want grass-fed, want clean, healthy animal protein. And you want 20 grams at every meal. And that's like the set size of the palm of your hand. You want 20 grams of protein, period. Whether you're losing your hair or not, we need that to balance our blood sugar. Protein has so many beautiful things for our body. It's essential. We get that protein at every meal.
Thank you for that. I'm so glad that we included that. In terms of men and women, how much protein should men get as opposed to women? Because I know women.
Well, they need more. I mean,
they need a little more. They need a little more.
Nowadays, they're saying there's some studies saying we need more than 20 grams a meal. And certainly if you're very active or you're a male that, this just weighs a lot more, you need more protein. But a general rule of thumb is 20 grams. And the most protein shakes are a 20 gram serving.
This has been really beautiful. Thank you, Julie, for sharing all this information with the listeners and our viewers today. I have to ask you as we close out, what is your next? What is your next for you? I can see you now. Good Morning America of functional medicine. What's your next? What is your own talk show? What is your next?
What is my
next? What is
my next thing I'm going to do?
Yeah. What is your next that you would like to accomplish?
Be on Good Morning America.
Okay. All right.
I just want to share this with as many women as possible.
Yes.
There's hope. You don't have to give up and get on pricey, painful procedures.
Yes.
You don't have to get on pharmaceuticals. Please give this a try.
Yes.
It worked for Kim and I, and it as you see from Kim's attitude too.
Yes.
That
it takes effort.
But all health problems, all health conditions, if you have that positive attitude like Kim has, you're going to overcome it.
And we should have amazing hair to the day we die, right, Julie? To the day we rocking sexy hair. Oh man, this has been really good. I look forward to your retreat. I know that you're having a virtual retreat that you're actually creating. Is that going to be in 2023, your virtual
Probably
retreat?
2023.
Okay. Well, hey, that's less than 6 months away. We're in June. July is in a couple of weeks, right? Yes. So we'll look forward to your retreat that you're going to have. I'll be really excited to be a part of that. So Julie, is there anything else that you would like to add or to leave before we close out the podcast?
No,
I have to ask you. I got to ask you this: what's your favorite fruit that you enjoy eating?
My favorite fruit?
What is your favorite fruit that you enjoy eating? Yeah, what's your favorite?
Oh, I think Granny Smith apples, actually blueberries, hands down.
Is it because
they're highest in antioxidants and lowest in sugar, and they're great to throw in a shake.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Julie, thank you so much. I'm so grateful
to have met you, Kim. And
yes. And thank
you offer so much to your community. And I am I'm just delighted to have met you. My husband was so happy to have met you too.
I enjoyed meeting the both of you. And I look forward when you actually do your next event, because you're putting together something really, really, really big and positive, and to be able to share with you some aromatherapy essential oils that you can possibly share, with your patients and your clients as well. So collaborations are always amazing. So thank you guys. This is Kim Evans. I am the host of Inspired Conversation, and thank you, my guest, Julie Olson, functional nutritionist, Fortitude Functional Nutrition around the world, keeping women hair healthy and sexy forever. So you guys, thank you very much to the podcast. Bye for now.